got you, and now we're recording. Somebody's got to do it. It has to start somewhere. So,
do it to me one more time.
Actually, we're recording now. You might want to introduce your show.
Yeah. Hello, Scott. Welcome to Awaken Hidden Truth. We were chit-chatting, and then you just hit the button.
Yeah, we were having fun. We were talking about this and that and the other thing, and not to be recorded, but good. Just not for YouTube. YouTube's for the best good of all life publicly. When I say that, I mean it's for the best good of royal families, military-industrial complex, classified people, all the massive people, extraterrestrials, people from different planes, different master teachers. It's for their benefit too. It might be hard for people to comprehend what I mean by that, but these little shows are like channels. They're a channel of the new ray and the hue worldwide. And that comes from off-planet, way beyond this earth. And it's moving through the planet now for the benefit of all that exists here. And it has its own timing and its own way of helping people get free from the very tight knots they're suffering from subconsciously. See, people suffer from terror all the time. They have wives and families and kids, and they grow up and they go to work, but they're terrified down deep of nuclear war, the end of the world, whether there's a savior, whether God likes this planet or not, whether there's going to be an Armageddon, one threat or another. And this is how most people live their lives, listening to the news and being in fear. They want good things for their families and lives, but they're also imagining a terrible future. Often they're imagining the end of the world. And some religions teach their followers wrongly to imagine the end of the world. And it's not right, because all that's doing is in reinforcing and encouraging people to use the great gift of their ability to imagine in a negative, destructive way. One of the things that's changing out there is helping people to recover or recall or remember the ability to work with direct knowing perception, direct knowing certainty, confidence in whatever a person knows about the multidimensional universe, whatever they uncover that they know about themselves as a being that isn't the physical body. These are the things that are worth anything and have value while you're living a life on any planet, on any dimension. Because when beings living and running bodies become aware of this, they begin to become free in the universe. Not as a body, as a being. Like so many others that don't live on Earth are right now. And there are massive numbers of them, in the trillions, on many galaxies, on many levels. They way outnumber any tyrant spacefaring races. They always have. In the past, in the history of our galaxy and this solar system, when tyrant spacefaring races went out among the stars, they would try to obtain new territory, new worlds, control other beings like human. And of course, the kind organizations out there would stop them or go to war. They've done this in the past long ago in our galaxy. And it destroys many worlds. And then they sign a treaty and then everybody rebuilds. In the past, there have been numbers of wars that go back several billion years in different galaxies in different ways. And it's been a never-ending struggle that has never stopped. There's peace, then there's war, then there's peace, then there's war, not just on Earth, but out there as well. What's changing out in the universe is that there are no more war. They don't war anymore. When a tyrant race breaks a treaty, they're policed and caught. They don't go to war. They might lose a few ships and personnel trying to do something really nasty on some planet, but they are observed and monitored. ever since that treaty was signed 500,000 years ago. It doesn't mean that all the beings that go out and play in the universe aren't caught covertly off in some corner somewhere by tyrants and end up on Earth with no memory. It's a long history about this planet. It goes back 65 million years with extraterrestrial beings coming here since the dinosaurs were made extinct. So that's a very long history for this planet, when beings in this sophisticated level of human body existed like this or better than this long ago out in the universe, which means that human beings did not evolve on this planet ever. When it was capable of sustaining human and animal and mammalian life, other races that developed out there in the stars on other worlds came here and brought plant and animal, even insect life and everything else here to start a new world. That's why we have so many unbelievable amounts of species of birds and fish and insects and everything. That was accumulated here over a vast period of time. Didn't evolve on this planet, most of it, originally. Dinosaurs didn't even evolve on this planet originally. They were brought here and made into the gigantic beasts they became. And then they became so big and ponderous, they would have eaten themselves to death, so they were done away with. The bodies, just gone. And since that time, human beings and other races from the stars have been coming here. Long ago, the poles didn't flip on this planet. In more recent times, going back a few million years, they have been. But that's Galactic History 101. That's the history of Earth and our solar system people on Earth know nothing about, and the most classified people on this planet who know extraterrestrials exist and have more directly since the end of World War II. They knew before that too, by the way, but more directly had contact on a political or worldwide level after that point. Even those people don't really know the history of this planet. They know polar shifts happen here, destroying all life on the surface, and that they happen cyclically about every 100,000 years. Classified arena on this planet knows that. And they classified it during Gorbachev, the old former Soviet Union, when it became, a democratic so-called system, which it isn't now, but it was for a time. Then they did these scientific research things under Detox between what were Soviet scientists and American scientists, and they were particularly interested in doing deep oil drilling in the deepest places of the world to pull these compacted dirt out of these tubes and chop them up and put them in a centrifuge, which would determine which way the gravitational poles of the planet were going. What they found was they were going 180 degrees opposite what they are today, about 180 to 120,000 years ago. And then when they dig deeper, they found out it was cyclic, and it scared them because we were overdue for one. So they classified it. I'm going to tell the people. There's nothing they could do to control or stop it, so they just covered it up. And they've been scared of that themselves ever since they covered it up. But nothing's happened. Should have, but it's not going to. No more polar shifts for this planet. Permanently ended. And it was not permanently ended by people on this earth at all. Now that's an extraterrestrial issue. So they don't tell the people about it at all yet. Because anything to deal with this planet on that level is extraterrestrial related. And that's the highest level of classified stuff they do not want the public to know about. But they are beginning to disclose it because they have to, for their own good. It's just the way it is. If they want to play among the stars, they have to. It's for their own safety. It's not for anybody's harm. No. Only tyrants think of capturing leaders and killing them and taking over and all that. Benevolent, highly evolved human and other races out there don't think that way. They know that the people on this planet have been manipulated by the misuse of extraterrestrial science that involved subconscious mind development and terrorizing programs placed or implanted there to control world leaders and people on this earth one way or another. So you've had probably ever since Truman and Eisenhower in the United States, presidents and other beings that have been manipulated illegally from off-world against their better judgment and without their true free will to make decisions that are not the best for the planet. And they know it, that they were manipulated, but they couldn't do anything about it. So other beings made inroads and made meetings with them and connected with them to try to get them out of safely the treaty they got caught in with the tyrant race to get the technology we have today. Illegally get this technology before we're ready for it, because we didn't develop it or earn it. German scientists didn't get further along in nuclear bomb development because they were so much more brilliant. No. They were given information illegally. It was an attempt of an alien race to conquer this planet. It was kind of silly because they'd have to break a treaty, an out galactic treaty, and they would have gone to war and they'd have lost that war again. But these are like sore losers. They just, if this planet was lost, they'd try to blow it up on their way out and forget about it and go try somewhere else. They're sore losers. So there was a lot of things that had to be solved first before disclosure can happen safely. There were two bases of a non-human bipedal, quite violent race that traveled the stars. One was in the Amazon jungle underground, and one was in the Congo in Africa. They aren't there now. Public has no idea any of this ever came and went. But it had to do that in order for disclosure to begin. People are still in control of the world, financially or otherwise. They're still very afraid, frightened of the future because they don't know whether they can trust it. They don't know if they can trust the kind races from the stars anymore than they could. Well, they know better now that they got hoodwinked and manipulated to sign a treaty against their better judgment. Because the beings that signed a treaty with them to get old antiquated extraterrestrial technology didn't care if we gave up nuclear weapons. That's not a nice thing. They wouldn't care. One of the things that the reason it was so highly classified, that whole issue, practically speaking, was because after World War II, we had a pretty damaged world. Cities leveled in Europe, Japan, a couple of nuclear bombs sent off there. You know, China and Russia and communism, people starving and mass murder in those countries. All kinds of stuff was still going on at the end of the World War. They killed more people than the war did after it was over. In China and Russia. Millions and millions of people. So the problem had not been solved. There are races who would love governments on this planet to annihilate 3/4 of the population of this planet for them. Make it easier to control 500 million than 7 billion. That's the way tyrants think. There are people in government, classified arenas today on this planet that understand this now. When those guys were done using those elitist people on this planet, they would have violently killed them and replaced them. So you see, they couldn't have won anyway. There could never be a new world order here run by an elite family group because they would all be killed. It never would have gotten to be to where they thought, where they were being promised it would get to, for cooperating with these races that are negative from outside Earth. It never would have ended up right for them. Most people on Earth would be killed. That was Hitler's job. He was going to do that for them. Get it? That failed, obviously, and everybody knows it failed. There's a lot that's classified to try to keep people feeling safe after World War II and have babies and feel like their militaries can protect them. If people on Earth found out that extraterrestrials, good and bad, were coming here and influencing things at the end of World War II, People could have never felt safe enough to rebuild the world or have babies. It would have been, that was their thinking at the time. And they may have been right then, but now they're not. It's way past the time at which people need to know, because this world needs to move forward. It can't go forward the way it is using the fossil fuels, global warming and all that stuff. It can't, there's no future in outer space for this planet. It's rocketry or NASA, Elon Musk or anybody, the way it's running right now. You can't take that kind of a manipulative, deceptive, lying, whether it's governments or military, anybody, out in space and go throw that on races out there that won't tolerate it. Because they won't. And they never will. So you see, we have to go into a new direction. There is no going to be any Star Trek in the future with radioactive warp core drives and stuff like that. It's a nice idea, but nobody would tolerate that out there. Polluting and dangerous? No. These guys don't run on nuclear energy. The more advanced races out there, they don't use it. They don't use radioactive isotopes in their ships that'll kill you if it gets out of a lead-lined case. No. There's certainly a lot of people on Earth today that supported and ran the classified program here. Both some presidents were aware of it, most not. You know, that understand today they have no future in the direction they were going, because they were being manipulated and misdirected to be destructive to themselves. Wouldn't have worked. Not out there. You know, nobody wants to interfere with a planet or what it decides to do. But the thing is, if the people on Earth who are running this world do not have free will anymore, and they just believe they do falsely, and they've been manipulated, subconsciously manipulated with more advanced technology, they didn't even see it coming. Then if you leave them to be making decisions based on subconscious influences, they will destroy this world. By themselves, you won't even need an extraterrestrial outside influence. They'll just do it. They tried to do that a number of times during the Cold War to blow this place up in nuclear war. And they were stopped. Not from Earth. Not from this planet. Not because beings who did it wanted to stop them from doing what they want to do. But let's face it, until those beings and the rest of the people on this earth have true free will reestablished so they can make wholesome, good decisions for themselves, it would be irresponsible for beings from out there to allow such a race of people who don't even get along from one block to the next to go out and play among the stars. Would you do it? Would you allow Earth people the way they are to go out there? No, you wouldn't. Good thing we're not alone in the universe, or we'd all be dead on this planet already. Part of disclosure is going to be letting people know the truth about that. You know, why didn't we have a nuclear war? Was it because these men who were so twisted they thought it was cool to set off a hydrogen bomb in our own atmosphere and go up in the jet stream and radiate everything just to test it? You really think such people wouldn't push the button if they had it? That crazy? You think people from the stars did not see people doing that and see race that's negative from the stars influencing them to do that? Of course they did. They're stopped many times. Kind beings don't want to run someone's world for them. But they do want a world of people to grow up and be mature beings, work in harmony with each other, and then work for the greatest good of all life when they go out and join others in outer space, in the galaxy, and in other dimensions. Common sense here, just common sense. This planet and its people will never be given the right to take that kind of perverted, fear-driven nonsense out among the stars to proliferate it out there. Never going to happen. Never. So this solar system and this planet is quarantined. until we can be fixed, repaired, remembered, recalled. Get rid of the subconscious mind altogether. We're not supposed to have one. That's what needs to happen now. The alternative is annihilation, self-annihilation. You don't need extraterrestrials to come here and blow us up. We'll do it to ourselves. And if they hadn't intervened at critical points, we'd have already done it. So that's a message I put out because it's important that people in every walk of life hear the truth about this. Because below the subconscious stuff that's perverting their decision making, they know as beings, as atmas, not bodies, but the being that runs those bodies knows, even if it's been suppressed and made to forget. Underneath it all, they know. You bring that to the surface and people will make better decisions and use their imagination in loving, constructive, uplifting ways. Because we're required as beings to learn how to use it correctly. When you imagine something, this omnipresent living energy that underlies all creation in all the dimensions, way up beyond the void, everywhere in between, is a co-creator with the beings who send imagination into it. And it will co-create the circumstances and the people and everything to make something happen when you do that. The way the universe was set up over a long period of time until recently is that if people sent out good imagination and destructive fear, it would create both for them to learn. And that's been going on for billions of years and nothing's changed at all in the universe after all this was created. So it's really kind of stultified or stuck the planet, not just the planet, but the whole creation in a mode that is not progressing. So what is underway now has to do with changing the direction of the prophesied destructive future of Earth and the universe into something unexpected. No one saw it coming, and it's going in a different direction now. And that means that the experiment of what people call evil has to be undone, neutralized, and replaced with something that only inspires beings who run bodies on any planet or dimension to create that which will only be of uplifting benefit to all life. If people on Earth want to play among the stars, and they're certainly capable of it and ready for it, then they have to go out there and play in the ways that the mass of beings out there create and play. We're not going to get them coming our way. We're going to have to go their way because they're far more advanced than we are, spiritually and technologically. So that's just part of how disclosure, what people call disclosure, is underway to occur. Not in a way people are expecting. Not in a destructive way. Not in an Armageddon, none of that. Not in polar shifts. That's the old way. It doesn't work. People just come back and inhabit the planet again, and they go at it for property and possessions and power and the illusion called money and all that. And they just get destructive again, selfish and greedy and all that. And it just keeps going on and on that way, never stops. So how is the universe, the entire grand multidimensional creation by the source, the supreme being, worth a darn if it just stays the way it is forever and never changes? See what I mean? So we should, and if you want to ask any questions, you just turn on your mic, Perry, and then we'll go on a journey.
Yeah, before we start the journey, Scott, I have a question from Rose. When we are leaving for the trip, for the journey, I'm fighting to stay awake. Is it okay to let go, or should I fight to stay awake listening?
Fighting to stay awake will put you to sleep. It's negative. It's effort. It's fear of failure. It's subconscious. Don't do it. Don't fight it. Just do the best you can. And the beauty of these recordings and these shows is simple. When you hear it the first time, some people will be very uplifted. And they're used to going to unconscious or with the body when it goes into the trance state called sleep. So they identify with it growing up, and they just don't remember bringing anything back when they leave the body. So for a little bit of time, some people will go to sleep, but who cares? The problem is, it's really not a problem. It just means that when you play this back a second time or a third time, at a time and a day of your choosing when you're well rested, and you can not be disturbed, put on some headphones, and you play it back and you go on the journey again. And you'll be able to stay awake through it and hear and remember everything that happens. But if people don't do the work to listen to it again, first time's good. It means that they're getting the experience, even if they're not consciously bringing it back to the body. They're actually having the experience. And when they play it back, they'll begin to realize they have the experience. That's what I'm trying to say. They'll begin to remember that they knew it. That's kind of cool. Yeah.
Scott, I would like to say thank you, with everything you have done for us, because myself struggling with this life, not only this life, maybe previous lifetime on this planet Earth, Scott.
Yeah, right. That's right. Not just one. The people being made to forget their higher faculties of creation, co-creation with the source, prime creator, what people call the supreme being in other worlds. It's a prime creator, but they don't think it's something superior to them. It is a source where a collective of all beings kind of focuses. And you could even talk with that source, but it's kind of like a huge ocean of light and sound, of beings that make it up, individual atoms that are spherical shaped energy, connected together telepathically. And the combination is much wiser and broader and deeper than just the sum of its parts. That source, they look at the source as something they co-create with. They don't worship it, because that just limits them, puts them underneath a tyrant, puts them below somebody's feet that demands worship. And only tyrants demand that, not the real source at all. We're meant to discover how to co-create with that source, good ways of doing things for the good of all life. That's what the purpose of a human being is, actually. When people on any world system begin to recover this and become aware of it again, their world changes. What's going to happen on this earth is going to happen in a unique way from any other world in creation. But it's not the first time worlds have been transformed that were very negative. And there are beings out there who not only have the experience and the technology and the awareness and the enlightenment to know how to do it, but they're not tyrants. So they need to get people on earth raised up in vibration enough to ask for it, to want it. Got to get everybody involved on this planet. Everyone at some point. There's going to be a lot of changes to get that to that point here. It's not under my control. I'm a co-creative part of it, yes. But there are billions of beings involved that aren't even on this planet. And they're master teachers. That's pretty big stuff. I'm not going to go against that flow because it's moving this way and Earth's right in the middle of that flow. So we have to change. Fortunately for us, in a good way. Earth's about time, it took its place among the stars.
Yes.
And to do that, at some point, the people who are in power now will drop their fear to dominate people, because they feel if they don't dominate them, people will kill them and they'll dominate them. They'll try to. That's just a subconscious fear they have. It's not real. Masses of people here don't want to take over their jobs. Who would want them? I wouldn't. No. They'll want to change so that collectively they can have a benevolent government system on this planet. And we need that. People out there are not going to let us play among the stars until we're operating as one world for the good of life. Period. They're not. There isn't any technology or weapons they developed on this planet that will allow them to go ahead anyway. There are beings out there in races so far more advanced that are kind than humans. The humans, even the military-industrial complex, has no idea. They're advanced like that long ago. Long ago. Just waiting for us to catch up. one little world. We got a lot of friends out there, so if we didn't, the tyrants who were secretly operating on this planet, little grays abducting people, that's all been stopped permanently. It does not take place anymore. People are left with the memory in the past about what happened. They talk about it online on radio shows all the time, but none of that's going on anymore. The classified system isn't telling them it isn't, still classified, but it isn't. You really don't hear any news stories per se out there about little grays just abducted me and my wife kind of thing and messed around with us and put us back with no memory. That used to go on quite a bit here decades ago. Not anymore. The sooner people on Earth discover this, better off they're going to be, because they'll be able to drop fear of the future. When you drop fear of the future, you can start to create with that source again. Why? Because the source and the energy that connects us to that source is not nuclear. It's not made of matter, and it's not space and time, and it isn't atomic. It isn't protons and electrons and neutrons and quarks and semiquavers and all that stuff. It's something behind all that. And that energy will not work with any negative emotional or imaginative state whatsoever. Ever. There are tyrants and beings in the universe on different levels who'd be happy to work with people who want to think and feel negative. But they're just going to be misled and abused and destroyed and whatever. That too is being changed out there. So it can't influence people that way anymore. That's changing. Most people on Earth today are operating from subconscious programs they don't even know they have. They don't even know they're there. The people with PhDs in psychology and parapsychology, for the most part, don't really understand how the mind works. It's not their fault. They just were never taught it by other fellow PhDs, etc. They're not taught the real truth about where emotions in the mind come from, and they don't come from this dimension at all. That's a big statement, but what does that mean? It means simply that we, as the being that runs physical forms, which are like machines, the human body, this nervous system, DNA, runs at 98.7 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what the temperature of a car runs at, but that's kind of what it is. Biological apparatus, the highly developed nervous system that has the capability to channel the being's higher faculties through a physical form, so that a person can be enlightened in a physical body that can have tactile sense, and light and sound and smell and taste and all that in a particular dimension, particular parallel dimension of the physical universe, where all the molecules vibrate at the same time rate. So everybody sees and perceives everybody moving at the same time rate. There are many other realities that move at different time rates. More advanced races know how to move their craft and their being from one to another. Before you even get to what people call the astral plane, there are many levels of physical matter. The quantum physics, more advanced quantum physics on Earth, they pretty much kind of understand this. Or they look at it as theoretical. They can prove it mathematically, but they don't know how to access it or touch it. And to do that, we're going to need the assistance, teaching, and friendship of beings from other worlds who understand it already and have long since understand it. Otherwise, we're going to have a hard road going from where we are now, with all these people fighting and this country's disagreeing, all this misuse of money, all this stuff. It's going to take us forever to develop the technology to play among the stars on our own without help. So, if people on Earth get it together, at some point they will, then these craft can come here and land and shake hands and be fun and have buddies and change the whole place. It's not hard for them to do it. The problem is that people on Earth are terrified of it. They're terrified of remembering who they are and what they knew before they were born here. Why is that true? Because you can't talk to most people on this earth and ask them, what were you before you were born? They're just afraid of it. Or they don't think it's important, or I live one life and then I go home to God kind of a thing. None of that's true. They're afraid, and you can't blame them. I don't, because things were done to the people on this planet without their consent or awareness. In a history they've been made to forget as beings, not bodies, before they were born here. That means they have the memory somewhere in their being of all that, and it needs to be recovered, awakened. That's a fact. I mean, that's just the way it is. That's what you would call enlightenment. Enlightenment isn't about, well, general terms, self-realization would be awareness of what you are as a spherical energy, the real you that's in the same image as the source, not this, not a physical body. And what its co-creative relationship is with that source. That would be more what people call God realization. And there are many levels or advancements or expanded consciousness into the depths of both. Even when you cross the threshold into both of those, it goes on forever. See what I mean? It does. And not in a bad way, but in a wonderful way. So let's get everybody sitting in a chair or laying down. What we're really doing is we're going to go and put the body in the trance state called sleep that we do every night. Every listener, everybody on the show, you, Perry, myself, we all are experts at putting the body to sleep at night. But people are not aware on planet Earth, for the most part, what it is they're doing as such experts, because it's been occluded, suppressed. Their awareness of the use of their higher faculty in this way has been shut down. It does work. So when a person puts their head on the pillow, like, I'm going to sleep, and then they snore, and then they're gone. And they wake up in the morning with no memory. Often. Sometimes they bring back vivid dreams, and then they think that's just made up in their head, or it's not real. What we're doing in these sessions is helping people, assisting them to put the body in the trance state the same way they do at night, except they're staying consciously focused on what I'm sharing with them telepathically as a being. And they're going out with me on this journey to be aware of what they're capable of doing as a being while they have a physical body alive on a planet. They can leave their body safely without the threat of anything negative approaching them. And they can learn and discover where it is they're going and what's out there long before their body dies. And the advantage of that is fear of the future gets completely annihilated, dissolved. You stop putting energy into it, it just shrivels up and vanishes in a puff of smoke. Where we put our attention is where we feed energy to how we experience life, good or bad. Fear and terror, or wonderful upliftment and good for all life. Those are our choices, basically. Take several deep breaths. Just when you breathe out, put all your fears of the future. That means everything. Money, people, sickness, how long you live, age of your body. Fear of the future aside. In a computer program, in an imaginary disk, in a computer, on your bed, on your desk, on your floor. And you're going to leave that turned off with your body that's going to be safely protected in the trance state called sleep. It means, as we're doing into this process, which we're doing now, the pineal gland in the center of the brain of each person on Earth who's listening begins to secrete serotonin, and melatonin gets made, and it basically runs the body on automatic, keeps the heart working, lungs working, blood circulating while you're gone. There is a type of a telepathic link that is not breakable by science or technology or any kind of misuse of extraterrestrial science or anything like that, that is pure and was established in the beginning before the lower dimensions were even created, between atmospheres, between beings like us. And that is a link that is not a silver or a golden cord that can be broken or anything like that. And it links to the pineal gland to run the brain and nervous system to keep the body just fine while you're out on a journey. People, when the body dies, they're going to go on these journeys anyway, whether they like it or not. Waiting till you die to find out what truth is idiotic, because you take fear of everything with you when the body dies, and that fear attracts the person to the next incarnation, usually with no memory of anything. That accomplishes nothing. So we're just using our free will to use the imagination in a constructive, benevolent, kind, uplifting way only. And we're putting aside all of our fears we carry and run around in our heads every day. Now imagine someone you love and respect. You're grateful they are in your life. It can be a person, a place, beautiful place, a thing of some kind, past master, a guru, whatever you think the supreme being is, the savior, anything at all, that when you first think of it, makes you smile inside, naturally. I do that instantly when I just think of Starlight, my cat. Something so simple. Boom, I'm there. Now that will open a doorway, a certain faculty, one of the rods and cones in the pineal gland, the center of the brain, and turn on a little transmitter, so to speak, and it connects the being running the body, not the brain. The being that's usually hovering around the body running it and isn't aware of it. It connects the source of the center of that being, the white core, to the source it came from, far above the void known to most Buddhist monks and to many religions on earth. And it's a direct link with no intermediary. That doesn't mean that kind beings and masterful beings along the way don't hear it when you do this sound we're going to send out, because they do. They're telepathic. They have photographic memories. They do not have subconscious minds at all. Normal humans on other worlds don't have subconscious minds through which their nervous system can be unconsciously influenced to make bad decisions. It could be a beautiful hummingbird hovering a couple of feet in front of your face. Beautiful rainbow colors. It could be a waterfall. Anything without the negative element. Then I start to send out these tones of the hue, the first primordial omnipresent sound or frequency behind all creation that brought all of the dimensions into creation, all the lower dimensions, the higher dimensions to this big void area, which isn't really void, it just appears that way. The etheric and mental causal astral, where all emotion comes from, down into the 144 parallel dimensions of the physical universe. And it supports and sustains all of that, floating in a big sea of light and sound, a big white area with a golden tinge to it, which is what's in the dark matter between planets and stars and galaxies. It's not matter as scientists on Earth yet understand. It is energy, but it's not nuclear in nature as they understand it. This energy field that supports everything has nothing to do with positive and negative, devils and demons, angels and paradise, or anything like that. It is a field of energy that is living, and we are connected to it as beings, not bodies. When we begin to discover how to utilize the creative imagination correctly, then we choose of awakened true free will to only visualize that which will be of benefit to all life, not just life on earth. Consciousness expands to comprehend, life in the multidimensional creation on many worlds, on many levels. And we begin to respect that life. And then we can play in a much larger universe safely. And the beings that live in that universe embrace and accept us. They don't act superior. They could be 1 billion years older than the human race. But there's just Atma's running billion-year more advanced bodies and other technologies. The Atma's still the same, no matter what race you're from or what planet, what type of extraterrestrial you are, whether you're an elephant or mammals on Earth or whole planets. There are beings who are in charge of and running these creations. Suns, galaxies turning on their axis. There are beings who run the mechanics of keeping that in place. They're Atmas too, or soul, or whatever you want to call it. When I begin these tones, there's a new consciousness moving through this omnipresent force, comes from the highest worlds down through the planes, out into the world today, and it's coming this way. It's moving through our solar system. It's coming from deeper places in the galaxy, and then from other galaxies, and from up in the upper worlds, and so forth. And this new element in this omnipresent first sound only creates with us in ways that will be uplifting and beneficial to all life. So if you want to get free and you want to experience what it's like to recover who you are, then you need to start working with the creative imagination, which is not made up in the brain in a human body, in the correct manner. The brain in the human body does not and is not capable of visualizing anything. There's no motion picture camera in the brain cells or a movie projector with which you can see things projected. That's not what it does. It's not what it is created to do. When you have your eyes open looking out a window and you're seeing a beach or something that's pleasant, you're in a boring classroom, for instance, it's actually the being, not the eyes, that are looking out at what's out there in the window. It's the being seeing that vision, not the brain, not the eyes. You close your eyes and imagine a beautiful waterfall tumbling down a mountainside, and there's green moss under your feet. And you can see a blue ocean way off in the distance. And there's a gentle breeze kissing your face. And you can feel the mist on your skin from the waterfall just kissing your forehead. And you breathe, and it feels like the air is so clean it's coming through your lungs one way and going out the other, passing through your entire body. It is the being that sees and experiences this, not the brain. Because the brain and the body are in the trance state called sleep now. Healthy, running automatic, breathing, blood circulating. But as you begin to work this way consciously, you're not in that body. It's just running automatic from a distance. And more advanced humans and other life and other worlds know this and grow up in worlds where they're taught this from birth. So it becomes second nature to them. None of this is ever taught to anybody in mass on this planet. So why would they grow up even thinking about it? I'm going to begin these tones because they help raise the vibration on different dimensions that each being operates in, whether they know it or not, begins to the process of waking this up in a safe, non-destructive manner. And this is for all beings on planet Earth, without exception, everyone. Can only be beneficial to end strife and negativity, fear and terror, destruction, mistrust, deception, dishonesty, lying, all that stuff. All negative emotions. None of those will ever create a change in anything on this planet. Negative things only keep it in place like it is, doesn't change anything. So we need to work with the proper way of disciplining and mastering what we imagine for the benefit of all life, or you just remain trapped. I'll begin those tones now. These are done to raise the vibration, to shut off subconscious programs, because the field of energy that surrounds the Atma is where implants are, not in the brain, not in the body. So when we go on these journeys, we make sure they don't go with us turned on. No fear. You can see your body sitting down in a chair or lying there, looking down on it from above it. That's just as easy as imagining a butterfly or a hummingbird or a waterfall or the beach or the mountains. People do it all the time without realizing what they're doing. And you are perception. You can see your body peacefully in the trance state called sleep below you. You're hovering above it. And you're looking down upon that physical form, that vehicle you run, with kindness, appreciation that it is great potential to be changed and fixed in ways that will allow higher faculties to work through it on the earth. You look up through your ceiling and find yourself hovering 5,000 feet above the air in the atmosphere, looking down on your body right through the roof of wherever you are. And there you see a spherical form of you hovering above the body. And you realize as you look around you in every direction that you are a white core of energy looking through layers of teardrop-shaped colors that cover the spectrum of the rainbow, from a white core to a violet exterior, to kind of a golden energy field around it. This is what an Atma or soul actually looks like. You. That which is comprised of and comes out of being identical with the way the source itself looks in so many ways. When you look around you in the atmosphere, you find that there are other beings hovering there beside you. Men and women. You can tell they're men and women. You see physical forms that are human, maybe more flawlessly elegant than people on earth, trim, perfectly built, about 36. This is just a form they're showing you, projected out in front of their sphere. The real them, because they have bodies like this on ships or on planets, and they're showing you what they look like, because they have put their bodies in the trance state called sleep, and they are here to join us on this journey. They are not from Earth. Then you look up and find yourself in orbit above planet Earth in the void of space. And you can see that there is a good friend of mine, Ambassador Turellian from the Sayres race, hovering there. Maybe a little brighter, a little larger than us, but an Atma just like us. And there are other master teachers, as I call them, that have come with us that I know, who want to go on this journey with us. Because as master teachers, they can not only learn from what we do on this journey, but they can add their brilliance and their mastery and their encouragement to our own rapid recovery from being unconscious and not knowing who we are. Turellian and 3 of these master teachers in a triangle around him are centered between us. And as you look now, you'll see that myself, Perry, and others, as Atmas, we look pretty much the same. But you can see a perfect body form of Perry or myself out in front of those beings. They're made of energy. They look human, but they're floating in space. They don't need to breathe oxygen. We're not vulnerable to radiation from the sun. You don't feel any cold or heat. Because the energy that we are comprised of is not nuclear. It is not vulnerable to or part of the law of physics or any physical plane law. This being you're experiencing does not exist in time and space, where the laws of karma and reincarnation and maya or illusion exist. And beings used to know this and run bodies without being trapped by the bodies they're running. So here you experience a moment of freedom as a being, recovering and remembering without fear who you really are. This Atma, this spherical form of being, when you look around the void of space, which you first see to be black, which you've seen from the space shuttle or Hubble telescope images, everything appears to be black between galaxies and all that, it really isn't. Dark matter, what scientists on Earth call dark matter, they know it's everywhere, in between everything, every star, every moon, every planet, every galaxy, in the entire creation they can perceive in the physical universe. And it's actually a quite bright white light of energy with a golden tinge to it, because the Atma can see things that physical human eyes cannot see, because they're on a higher frequency than human eyes can detect. So when you look now, you see that the entire vacuum, so-called, of space, between the moon and the earth, which you can see hovering, rotating below you with the polar ice caps, and the continents you're familiar with, and the moon with its craters, and the sun in the distance. There's a white light with a golden tinge connecting. It's floating in this sea, above, below, and in every direction that is this energy. And we communicate and move and have our being as the Atma, and can ride and move in that energy anywhere in creation, to any planet or any dimension. The only thing that limits beings on Earth or anywhere from doing it is they're not aware of it. They're not conscious of it. They don't know how to imagine what the higher worlds look like above the void. what the astral plane looks like, run from emotion. All matter is moved by emotion. They don't know how to imagine it. They've forgotten or been made to forget. One of the key principles in travel in the multiverse is you need to be able to see where it is you want to go. You send that in this omnipresent living energy, and it takes you there. It's co-creative. Floating in the void of space, you can see that space is really not dark at all. And you can see all the billions of other stars floating out there in this big sea of white light with a golden tinge, and they're bright, they stand out. If you want, you can adjust your vision from here to see the black void of space and then see all the stars brilliantly glowing in every direction, which you've seen from shots of outer space from this Hubble telescope or satellites or the space shuttle, whatever. But there's two ways of looking at things. One from the limits of the human eyes and ears, and one's from the perceptions of the Atma that has no such limits at all. What this work does is begin to help people to recover their ability to see and imagine other realities, other planets, other times that they experience that they were made to forget, so they can go visit and grow and communicate with beings who are free out there beyond Earth, who can help them. One of the requirements is that beings ask for this assistance because they aren't tyrants. And it's important that beings get off their duff and exercise their imagination properly in order to give them that permission. No one's going to wave a magic wand and just twang set you free. You have to co-create with them, getting their assistance to do that. That way, when you recover who you are, you're confidently certain about that recovery, and it's yours permanently. It cannot be taken from you. The Atma is actually master over all negative creations, in or out of bodies, beings in or out of bodies, technology abused or otherwise used rightly in all the levels of creation. It just does not know this anymore. When a being starts to recover the awareness that this is its true purpose, to create beneficial things for all life with this energy that we live and move and have our being in, this hue, when I hue, it actually connects into that white field of energy directly. And then it connects into that same white field of energy in the astral, causal, mental, etheric, through the void, through the Atma plane, first of the higher worlds, and up through the planes, up into the source itself, what people call prime creator and other planets. The only thing that's capable of traveling through those planes across that void to the upper worlds is the Atma, the real you. Physical bodies cannot go there. They remain on the time rate of the parallel dimension, the physical universe where that matter is comprised. Your astral body, in a life you're living, in a whole nother plane, most people aren't even aware they're running them, is another physical life in a body that has greater abilities than a body on Earth. It's not free, but they live much longer there, and all matter is moved emotionally, through emotion, through feeling. People on Earth in human bodies receive their emotions from a life they're living in that plane. Further up, you get up into the mental plane, the apparatus of the mind is created and sustained in a life you're living there. All matters move through thought. And it's channeled down through the bodies you have in these planes, through the top of the head, through the pineal gland, to the physical body. And so you get your mind and emotions from another reality. The brain you develop growing up all your life is just to train it how to run the complexities of the nervous system, eyes, movement, coordination, singing. The real thought doesn't take place in the brain, actually. There's memory recorded in the brain cells, but that memory has nothing to do with what you know or knew in all the lives and out in the universe since you descended into the lower worlds eons ago. Our purpose as beings is to return to that source, to help by downloading into it or giving forth to it new insights and new ways of doing things from our long experience running bodies. That is our true purpose. It's in all of us, in the beings unconscious in the lower dimensions, that the key to changing the way the whole universe runs exists. The beings have not been returning to that source, which was the original, I don't want to say command, but the original agreement, let's put it that way, to go into these worlds and somehow find a way to create the lower dimensions to be mirrors of the upper worlds, which have no negativity in them at all. No one has succeeded. We've never done that in hundreds of billions of years. And now that is underway for the first time. You are in space, hovering in a circle with a dozen other people around Turelian and 3 master teachers. One has pale blue skin, about 6 feet tall, slightly pointed ears, beautiful eyes, looks very human, holds up a hand and you can see little webs between his fingers. Otherwise he looks, human. Pale blue skin, dark, sleek, shiny black hair. And this is a master teacher from a planet called Oceania. That is from a planet 3 dimensions, parallel dimensions up from the planet you're used to, in a physical world, in the physical universe, in a parallel dimension. They're one of the oldest races in this galaxy. And this is the leader of their people. Another being has a short cropped black beard and black curly hair, and he's holding a crystal staff. He's wearing a maroon robe. The crystal staff is made of quartz. It's about 6 feet tall with a little cross and a little eye like an Ankh, Egyptian Ankh in it. And it's a device. It's a teleportation device for trained students to transport them from physical reality into the realm of the source itself. Become an adept like this guy is. One of the other adepts running here is a woman. I mean, she's an Atma, but prefers a human form. So you'll see a woman body about 36 with beautiful blonde, honey blonde hair, absolutely gorgeous, ageless, and she's a master teacher also. When you look up, you'll see what begins to form in the void of space, which is, is a white light with a gold tinge now, turns into a blue-violet vortex like a huge tornado, but not violent, just shimmering like water, turning. And all of us circling around Turelian and the center to keep us focused on the journey. It's not because he thinks he's superior. It's so we stay focused and don't get scattered, so we can make this journey constructive. And you'll hear a sound start to hum in the center of your being. And it sounds like the hue. It sounds like millions of men and women singing the hue with perfect vocal cords on multiple levels. And it becomes so loud it eventually blends into one round humming sound. And you can hear it coming from this white plane of energy with a gold tinge, vibrating through space and time. And you see it in the form of this white light with a gold tinge, but it has a sound characteristic to it as well. And you're going to see us move as a group, circling around the central 4 beings, like a little galaxy, right up into this vortex. And it pulls us upward like an elevator. Now you're looking from your being out through this transparent blue-green water, and you can see space and stars of space all around you. Then it vanishes. And then you see whole levels of planes vanishing below you. And then you suddenly come out into what appears to be a void with nothing in it. No stars. It's not really dark or light. It's kind of a pale blue thing. You can't really see anything in it. You don't perceive any life here. That would be the void known to Buddhist monks and to some other religious orders on earth and off-world. But it does have life in it. You just have to know to look for it. And you can see us moving up this tunnel. And then this vortex that deposits us there vanishes from around us, and we're floating in this void. You look in every direction, there's all of us, there's nothing there. But you sense that you're moving forward at a very great rate of speed, going somewhere. You can hear the sound of the hue. It's vibrating through this void. It's there. And if you look closely, you'll see the subtlety of the white light with the golden tinge running through it. Then you see in the distance approaching us a long, white, golden beach. It extends in every direction as far as you can see, and we're moving towards it, and it's lit up. It's a land. It's the beginning of a dimension that begins above the void. From the etheric plane, a void, and then it's what's called the Atma plane. The first major dimension of the higher worlds, where a place is we embarked from long ago to explore and run bodies in the lower dimensions. And you're going to see us come right over the top of this white beach, and you see huge jungle trees. Some of them look like jewel flowers and stuff on them. They're very pretty. And then we stop in the air, and you see these birds fly up from the trees. There's thousands of colors here that you can see as the Atma. All luminous. Everything here has its own light. And these birds come up to you. They have long, split V-shaped tails and bodies that look like a blue jay with beautiful bulbous blue eyes that wrap partially around their head. Their bodies and their feathers are like the color of the rainbow, gradually blended, so they're just beautiful. And they have beautiful singing voices. These birds are of a higher genetic form. When you look above them, you see an Atma hovering, running them, just like you are. And then they sing for us. It's beautiful. Just brings tears to your eyes. It's beautiful. They're singing on all these levels. More beautiful than humans on earth can do. They have vocal cords. They can speak with you, but they're also telepathic. These are bird forms of a higher genetic structure, and it allows the being above them to run higher faculties through them. So the beings above them are actually communicating with you in this beautiful way. And they come up and hover around each one of you, 3 or 4 of them, and sing. And you can feel the energy of their vibrations of sound, vibrating the white core of your being in a very kind way. It's like saying, hi, welcome. And then they disappear and go back into the trees and sing. We keep moving over the top of this giant jungle trees and huge prehistoric looking ferns, beautiful countrysides landscaped, and in the distance a long crystal palace, crystalline like quartz towers and spires, luminous, the big beautiful mountain range, and it's luminous in the distance. And you look down below and you see this white marble platform, like a floor, a clearing in this huge growth, this botanical paradise. And sitting in the middle of it is a fountain, and we're moving down as a group, hovering as beings around it. Terrellians hovering above it. The master teachers are on the ground. You see them standing there, and above them their Atmas running those forms, those energy forms that look human. So we have a way of recognizing who they are. But they aren't human bodies. They just look like them. And in the fountain, which is a white alabaster with scalloped edges, it's on a blue pedestal, is the statue of a man standing there. Bald head, 2 gold bracelets on his upper arms, beautiful bronzed skin, clean shaven, bare chested, white tunic from his waist down to his bare ankles and feet, standing on this square pedestal inside the fountain. And his hands are down at his side with his palms out. And this white light with a gold tinge is flowing from his palms, filling this bowl, pouring over the edges in a smooth, luminous sheet that vanishes in the ground below this fountain. When you look to the right, a man appears standing there. Now this is Satnam. He looks just like the statue, ageless. He represents the first form, any form that looks physical. It stands between the infinite light beyond physical forms and forms that are created in the lower universe. He stands like a doorway between them. The statue represents him. This isn't about ego. There's no egos here. This is Atmas. The mind and other emotional bodies are in the planes in lives you're living below the void. So here is just the Atma. Nothing of any negative nature comes across that void into this plane. That's impossible. So you are floating in a place once you embarked from long ago, and you're back here. And when you go up to this fountain, you'll be compelled to do it. You'll find that some of this liquid light coming from his palms into this fountain flows directly out like a beam of light from this fountain and flows right through the core of your being and each layer. And then it continues out through the sphere of your being, out into this Atma plane in every direction. And then it continues through you, down through the void, down through the forms you have in each of those planes, lighting them up, down through the top of your head in the physical plane, sitting in the chair or lying down, out through your body, through your electromagnetic field, and out into the planet for the good of all life. This is something you have a choice to do. If you want to change any condition in the lower dimensions, you have to create it here first with these beings. Then it can change the lower worlds, because this is where all things come from. It is the source. There are many planes above this, but they're all considered part of the source. And you're going to see this being approach you, hover above his body as a sphere, and then move in front of each one of you in a circle. Torellian, the three master teachers, then all of you. And when he does, he approaches in front of you. He's seeing you as a being, the potential you are, to co-create with him and beings above him, to change things in the lower universes. Not in a destructive way that's been done before, but in a non-destructive way that will change the way they are run. This is part of retiring evil as an experiment in the lower worlds. It's a failed experiment, and it's being retired like the dinosaur because this new ray is taking its place. There's another creature I like people to meet here. His name is Etta. He's a Dren. He's silica-based. He's not carbon-based like people on Earth. Comes from a planet, Oceania, where this master teacher, Opelum, who had the pale blue skin, comes from. They evolved underground in extinct volcanic chambers as self-luminous minerals in the water and the soil, and it's glowing, and they evolved as a natural being, an Atma that runs these genetic forms, to defy gravity. They're anti-gravity biological creatures. And he's hovering there. And behind him, you see an Atma just like us. And he's very cute, and he's dancing in the air. His little tail from the root to the tip is glowing like crystal opal in bright sunlight. He's telepathic. He has vocal cords. He has a wife and kids in the planet down below. He loves more than people on Earth know how to love their own offspring. This being, this non-human being, run by an Atma or soul, is so courageous to a fault. If he befriends you, he would die for you. All the best qualities of the highest aspects of human nature are exemplified in this non-human being. He's a good friend. I would trust him with my life without hesitation. So this little guy, amongst all these men, is a master teacher also. And he's simply saying hello to all of you. When you look downward, you see below your feet forming, below what be your feet, below the Atma you are, below this fountain, a whirling blue-green funnel of light like a cyclone, like a tornado. peaceful, gentle. The whole group, Torelli and the master teachers and Etta, even Satnam, is moving down this shaft of light with us like we're in some kind of an elevator. And then you find yourself in an instant hovering in space above planet Earth. And there you see the polar ice caps. You see the moon with the craters turning on its axis, the sun in the distance. You look and see that the black void of space is really a white light with a gold tinge connecting and floating everything in it. And then you see a field of energy move over your vision, and the Earth changes to a world that has no polar ice caps. There's a big continent centered over the equator from the left hemisphere to the right. So there's about a third above the equator and below, and down below on the bottom of that is half moon base shaped this way, emerald colored glowing beach. The moon, when you look at it now in the same place as the moon you're used to, now has an oxygen atmosphere, clouds and rivers and lakes, 5 dome cities on the front. You can see right through it and see a dome cities on the back. It's turning on its axis and it's moving around the Earth. This is in a parallel dimension where Earth is in a higher molecular time rate, 3 levels up out of 144. And you're seeing this because down on that green emerald beach, you suddenly find yourself hovering above it. There's Torelli and these master teachers, Satnam Etta, and you feel bare feet sinking into this emerald green sand. You're manifesting feet out of energy that look like your human body, and you're being able to receive this green energy, which has to do with recall and memory. It goes up through you into the white core of your being and out to this green layer. And we're done with this journey. I'll have Perry show you this, what the Atma or soul looks like and where this green layer is. And then it goes out into that green layer and lights up some of these little teardrops that are different higher faculties that are in it. We won't visit anywhere else on this landmass today, just to get the green energy. And you find yourself in space, hovering above the planet, and it turns back into the planet you're used to, with the moon that doesn't turn on its axis and all the craters that has no atmosphere. And then you find yourself hovering above where you live, about 5,000 feet in the air. Day or night, it doesn't matter. When you look around you in the air of planet Earth, you can see this white energy with a golden tinge behind the air molecules, through everything. And you see yourself hovering above your physical body as a sphere, the real you, kindly looking on it, sending the memory of this journey down into the brain, out through the electromagnetic field of your body, and let this white light with a gold tinge move through you freely out into the universe for the beneficial, uplifting good of all life. Because it will transform you and enlighten you, but only if it's allowed to move freely through you by your own creative, true free will for the benefit of others as well. It only works that way. And then when you're ready, open your eyes.
Nice journey.
It's not for entertainment. It's for experience and remembering how to use the imagination properly. If people don't get taken on these journeys so they can begin to see what it's like in these different levels, they won't have the visual capability to see it for themselves and go there out of their body. And they should have that ability.
And everybody should re-listen to the journey, Scott, many times. Can go back to the past videos that we have done together too.
Yeah, because when they do that, if they've been on this journey, when you take this recording, which Perry will put up on our YouTube channel, you play it again at a time, days later, whenever, where you won't be disturbed and you're quiet somewhere and you can put on some headphones or whatever. Then you go on the journey again, because I'll be right there to guide it that time in the recording. And you'll begin to realize you remember, and somehow all of that I'm sharing with you seems familiar to you. Like you used to know it sometime long ago, like it makes common sense. That's when you're really starting to recover your higher faculties while you're living on Earth. And it changes consciousness. It really does. So I will, you have any other questions or anything you want to say?
No, Scott. Thank you so much for today.
Okay, I'm going to stop this recording now so we have an end of this session. You and I can chat a little bit. I wish you all who are listening, I don't care who you are on this planet, classified or otherwise, the greatest uplifting goodwill from me and all my associates not from Earth and in other realities, because they wish you the same.